Hello, Dice Man here. This is an update on the Redneck Injectorator project I'm doing with a good friend of mine. A little background for those that aren't familiar. This project started a few weeks ago when my friend and I were having a conversation, and I mentioned an idea I had 30-something years ago about converting a Holley carburetor into a fuel injection throttle body. A little more discussion went on, and we decided to try it. My original idea was to use a 4-barrel carburetor, but my friend's wanting to fuel inject his 64 Dodge A100 pickup with the slant 6 Mopar engine in it, so 4-barrel would be a little overkill. And we decided to do a 2-barrel version. And this, I've shown pictures of this throttle body conversion before, but I'd like to go into a little more detail now. This is the aluminum block that I machined to hold the injectors, and the injectors are positioned so that they will shoot the fuel right into the boosters in the carburetor, just like where the fuel went on the carburetor. When I got into building it, I realized I had room to mount the idle air control motor in this aluminum block. I machined a port in there for it, and it gets air from this hole in the air cleaner flange and runs through this rubber tube and into the side of the aluminum block. There it is metered by the idle air motor and goes into the power valve port that was cast into the carburetor body. It then exits there, same place the fuel did, from the power valve. These two holes right here, which are have a port over into each throttle blade. I added an extra hole just to make sure we have plenty of air volume to get all the air that we need into the engine. The fuel rail is a piece I had left over from a race car project that I did several years ago. I tapped it. It was set up for big old 3/8 lines, so -8 lines, but I tapped it and put some reducers in it and put a gauge on one side, and then we'll hook our fuel line up to the other side. These brass rods here go between the fuel rail and the aluminum block and hold everything together with some set screws. The throttle position sensor is a Ford unit. I think it's came off of like a 92 5.8 liter V8. Machined a plate here. It's screwed onto the side of the carburetor and adapts the TPS to the carburetor shaft. On the other side, I had to make a throttle blade, a throttle arm. On the A100, the throttle cable comes from the front of the engine and pulls this away. So I had to build an arm with an extended lower portion. I also went ahead and put the upper portion, left it long, so we can use it on something else later if we want to. Let's see. I guess that's about it for the Injectorator throttle body. This hole here is for the inlet air temperature sensor. We were going to use a GM LS unit, but we got a little bonus with the ECU, so we changed course on that. The rest of the, I'll tell you about that later. The rest of the components are here, like I say. Luckily, Phytech and Holley and Fast, all of them use GM sensors on their system, so sensors are easy enough. Here's a coolant temp sensor. This is the inlet air temperature sensor we were going to use, but it's no longer in the picture. This is a Phytech compatible Holley O2 sensor, and the homemade saddle bung that I did a post on that I made. The fuel pump is a generic eBay unit and inline, and this is the filter regulator LS style that we're going to use, and it ordered it. I think it was eBay. It came with the adapter fittings for AN lines. This is a hose kit, and we bought. Came with, I don't know, 15, 20 feet of hose and some half a dozen fittings. And here's the main component that makes this project viable. This is our ECU, and some of you may be surprised. I'm sure you recognize it. It's a Phytech that they use on the front of their 2-barrel and 4-barrel throttle bodies, bolts right onto the front of the unit. And the reason we're using this is cost. This unit you can buy as a replacement for about $260 something, and it has, obviously you get the ECU and the wiring harness. If you use a standalone ECU and a separate wiring harness, one can cost you that much or more. So this is what makes this project possible at the budget we've set. One issue that I see is the map sensor. It's obviously built into the ECU. It's all potted in, and it hooks up through this little tube right here that's protruding from the ECU. When it's used on the Phytech throttle body, there's a matching port on the throttle body, and there's a little rubber coupler that goes between them, and that's how it gets its map signal through the throttle body. We are obviously going to have to put a hose on it because we're going to remote mount this. We're not going to mount this throttle body on this ECU on the throttle body itself. We're going to mount it probably on the radiator core support, so we're going to have to get a hose onto this map sensor here, and I've got some ideas about that. I'm not worried about it. I think it's doable. Obviously, some of the wiring is going to have to be extended. Like I said, we're not going to mount it on the throttle body, and I've done that many times. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. And let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is the bonus we got with the ECU. We got the inlet air temperature sensor. Didn't know it was coming, so we're going to be able to use it, save us a few bucks on the budget, and have the proper sensor here. And let's see, that's it as far as our components. Some of you might be interested in our budget. We've set a $500 budget for this project, and this is where we're at so far. The carburetor was an eBay item. It was $30, and this is the only used part on here. All these other parts are new. But what we did, we went on the internet and we searched these parts, and we bought them from the cheapest place we could get. And it's all prepaid freight, so there's nothing added there. The throttle position sensor, like I say, is a 92 Ford 5.8. eBay, $15. Inlet air control motor, believe it or not, Amazon, $11. Fuel injectors I bought, they were new old stock. I bought them for $10 a piece, two of them, $20. The ECU was Phytech part, bought it from Jigs, $368. The O2 sensors, a Bosch unit, eBay, $32. Fuel pump, it's a generic inline from eBay, $30. And let's see, fuel line fitting kit, Amazon, $24. Coolant temp sensor, GM, eBay, $12. And I put down O2 bung, $2 for materials that I made in the shop, and I think we're at $475 approximately right now. I hadn't added it up lately, but right now I think that's where we're at. Some of you may have already picked up on it, and in the interest of full disclosure, I want to let you know we do not have, you don't see a handheld controller on that list because we don't have one for this project. In an attempt to keep it under budget, we're going to use one that we already have for another project. It's the old style with the mini SD card in it, and I was able to download the software for this ECU onto another SD card, and that way we can switch back and forth between the two projects by changing the SD card. Or that's the theory anyway. But so we're kind of cheating a little on that, but anyway, that's where we're at. P.S. if anybody has got an old style handheld they're not using, would like to sell it cheap, we're in the market. I think we got about $26 left in the budget, so let me know if you got one. But I'm really interested to hear everyone's comments, and good or bad. So that's it. Nice Man out. Thanks.